The film starts off with a hotel porter going through a hotel. We follow another man doing sleek stuff when we see two more people. They all get in the lift where we learn they are spies, and they sneak off to get changed. A woman called Roxanne. She is reporting to a man called Tom, who is the man in charge of the operation. The team storm into the room and catch a man who is wanted. They about to leave and take him into a van, however it explodes. They start getting shot at, however they try to escape, but get killed one by one. The last man gets killed and a van pulls up and takes the briefcase and leave. Rox sees this and is in shock. The next scene is shown to be a man called Mike. He is woken up by a chick called Nicole. They have a cute talk and mention about how magical last night was. We learn she used to be his teacher back in 7th grade. He comes down and says bye, then drives off. He arrives home and meets his mom and have mom and son chat. He then leaves and goes to work, and we learn Mike to be a very normal guy who works in construction. Later that night, he meets up with his buddies at a bar, and they talk about how he got with his teacher, and they are having normal buddy chat. Outside the bar, we see Rox is talking into her earpiece, talking about Mike and describing him to Tom. She walks in and greets Mike. Mike and Shook gets excited, and they talk and catch up. While talking, we learn they used to be high school sweethearts and haven't seen each other for 25 years. They play pool and learn about each other. But then Rox says they should take the night somewhere else. They hop on her bike, but while passing a truck, they get followed. They go to one of their old spots. They talk and reminisce, and Mike puts on one of Rox's favorite songs. They dance and share a moment until she injects him out clean and tumbles down the hill. He gets picked up and wakes up in a hotel room in London. He turns around and finds Roxanne explaining to him that she brought him here, but he walks out confused. He comes out and meets Tom. He introduces himself and Rox comes in. Tom lets him drive. They drive and explain they work for something called the Union. They explain they need someone who is completely normal to work for them. Roxanne shows a picture of the man called Phil who got raided in the beginning of the film and explained Phil had the names of every agent and how their mission went wrong trying to get it back. They arrive at a HQ in London, and Rox shows a picture of a woman called Juliet who is going to auction the intel on the black market in London. However, they need to find where she is keeping it. They walk through the HQ, and Tom explains to Mike he needs to do a mission because the person with the intel knows every spy, and to send a nobody will mean they won't notice him. They walk in and meet a man called Frank. He begins to play and tease Mike, however Rox breaks it up and introduce each other. Tom looks at Mike and gives him a whole day to think about it. While they leave, Mike feels confused why him and gets upset about how Roxanne just disappeared for 25 years. She says sorry and gives him a ticket if he decides to leave tonight. He can go, so then walks off to think about it. He comes back and decides to join, and so he undergoes training with Roxanne. They do a brief and explain Mike's mission to pick up a device that he will get for $5 million they will give him. They set up and get ready. Mike gets ready and loaded and walks, however gets approached by a homeless man. He asks for change first acting, but then tell him to follow him for the auction and tells him to turn off his earpiece so the team lose connection. Mike follows, and Roxanne sees a woman watching, so she follows Mike. He walks into a pub and sits down. He finds a phone under the table calling and is greeted by a lady on the phone. Roxanne runs after him. A woman talks Mike and instructs him to go to the bathroom. A huge man comes in called Ricky, and the woman says he will count the money and instructs Mike to put his gun to the side. The man counts the money and it checks out, so the phone he is using ends up being the encryption key. All happy, he walks out thinking job done, however Roxanne saves him, and they get caught up in a huge shootout. Roxanne tells Mike to run, so he ends up escaping into a music theater. He gets out and almost gets shot, but gets saved. Just before he thinks it's over, a crazy hot chick starts beating him up. They tackle and fall into a house and CRRY on fighting until Mike gets strangled and drops the phone in the sink. She almost kills him, however Rox comes through and fights the chick instead. They fight and Rox neutralizes the hot chick. They get away, however the key device is already broken. They sit down and they decide they will need to find another key and plan to steal it because the auction starts in 24 hours. The next day they go through some groups and target a fake Korean group, ping the tower, and find the location of the phone. They walk in and eliminate and take out people living in the house. Someone tries to escape from the house, however Mike bangs him out with brick and take him out. Rox finds the key, however, while she radios and her teammate doesn't respond. They run to Van and find her dead, but then find a postcard. Rox runs out and tries warning Tom to get out the building, however it's too late and HQ explodes. On the way back, the team decide to scatter and hide. They go Rox's safe house and she mourns her friend's death. The next morning, they make ways to a private HQ and meet Tom. A dickhead in a suit comes in and states if they fail, they will shut down the union and mocks them as useless and leaves. The team set up the key and get ready and start tracking the bids, so Rox and Mike start moving to the trace location. Tom bids with the phone and trace a location to a rooftop. They arrive and find the woman who is hosting the auction, called Juliet. Rox sits down and threatens her. Juliet comes across too relaxed and comfortable, and Rox threatens to take her to the intelligence device holding all of the information, and Juliet agrees. They leave in Juliet's car and arrive at her house. She opens a secret compartment and gives the device to Rox. She opens it and retrieves the information in her hard drive. Just before they are about to leave, they hear a knock on the door. They go towards the door and Rox opens it. We see a man called Nick, who was the last one to get shot in the beginning of the film. He says everyone's life is in danger and Rox lets him in. He comes in and greets everyone, and Rox questions how the hell he is alive. He says Tom is the one is setting the agents up and needs to get the information to CIA to handle. He says he acted dead to keep her protected as he didn't want her hurt. Mike gets pissed and he says they are married. This gets Mike pissed and jealous, and Nick says to meet up tomorrow to pass over the intelligence to the CIA, and Rox agrees. Mike takes the shit and leave with Rox. She steals Juliet's car, and while driving, Mike gets pissed how she was married and didn't say anything. Rox stops the car and they go back and forth until Mike jumps out and leaves. The next day, Mike goes to meet Rox at the bridge and they make up. They notice it's quiet and Nick calls her. She answers and he explains he has set them and the union up, and explains he never liked how his wife would never let him have more. He also explains how while he was at the house they met, Juliet swapped it for a fake one, meaning he has the real one. Rox plays it cool and says she will see him soon and ends it. The police pull up and the CIA dickhead pulls up and says they are under arrest. They escape and jump on a boat and trick them. Now as wanted people they need to stay hidden, and Rox explains she left a tracker on Mike when she hugged him. Mike calls one of his friends back home and asks for a favor, as he does cargo operations all over the world, and so Mike asks if he can help him get out the UK without anyone knowing. They go and meet one of his friends and lets them in and hide in secret cargo. They almost get caught, but get lucky. Tom is in an interrogation room, but explains how much bullshit this is, and he speaks into the camera explaining on how much bad stuff is going to happen now. They get let out and arrive in a place called Istria. They steal a car and track Nick down. They get to his boat, spot him out with that Juliet chick. They see the deal for the intelligence is going to go down, and so they follow. The Iranian buyer arrives and sits down with Nick and Juliet. They order a drink, and then Rox arrives with the order and sits down and interrupts the business meeting. She starts spilling all of the beans, and the Iranian cancels the deal and leaves. Mike comes through like E.T. to come grab the intel and gets chased. Rox holds Nick at gunpoint, however Juliet stops and says that it's gone messy for her now and is going to have a break, and gets the guards and leaves. Nick kicks her and escapes while Mike is getting chased and shot at by the Iranians. Rox chases Nick and talks to Mike and says he'd been cornered. He gets away and a whole chase goes on, but are clear. Nick pops out of nowhere, forcing to make Mike give his gun over. A car approaches and lets them get away. Nick steals a car and drives off, while Rox steals an even shitter car and goes after him. Mike gets ran over and gets put in a truck. The buyer pulls up to get it, but Nick gets it and leaves. Then a whole need for speed scene happens. While Mike is in the truck, they all get in a car chase, all after the intel. Mike comes out the trunk and takes off and kicks out the businessman and takes the car, and the chase continues. While Mike catches up, Nick rams Mike off the road and Rox stops. Terrified, she looks at the car, but Mike is still alive, so they jump in the car and carry on chasing Nick. They crash into him and hold him at gunpoint. Nick tries to convince her that we can still get away and do everything we always wanted. Rox declines the offer, and while Nick tries to pull his strap, she shoots him. Mike is back in town at his friend's wedding and gives a speech. Roxanne arrives to the wedding and they both catch up with each other. They talk and share nice energy together and get close, so they decide to smash in the closet. However, on the way they see Tom. He says he will give them 3 days, however he will need them. He welcomes Mike the union, then leaves. Thanks for watching. Be sure to subscribe to our channel and turn on notifications for more. We will see you on the next one.